Hello everyone, today I will be discussing about SDLC, which is nothing but an integral part of the SDLC. SDLC simply stands for System Testing Life Cycle, which is again an IEEE standard. So I will first tell you the basic elements of SDLC, then I will tell you how it is related with the SDLC. SDLC stands for System Testing Life Cycle, which is an integral part of the SDLC. As I told you earlier on my SDLC video, there is a testing phase. So this SDLC comes under that phase. I will tell you how. So as per the SDLC, there were first stage was requirement gathering, right? Then was analysis, okay. Then the design part, simply okay, design part. Fourth one, it was the coding. Then the SDLC comes, testing, and finally the deployment. So the SDLC comes under this testing phase. Both SDLC and SDLC both are IEEE standards. IEEE, I expect that you already know what is IEEE, Institute for Electronics and Electrical Engineers. Okay, so these are the 6 phases. This is the testing phase and SDLC comes under this phase. And I hope you already know about IEEE, which is nothing but Institute of Electrical and Electronics Engineers. So this SDLC and SDLC both are IEEE standards. Now the deliverable of the coding phase is the actual build, which goes as an input or artifact to the testing phase. So now let us see what's actually inside the testing. So first, let's say let me clear the board. Okay, let's say you have the exe file or a Java archive or a web archive. Okay, so this is the build file you have by now from that development team or coding team. Okay, now the testing phase, there will be first, let's say this is the testing department or test team. Okay, so this is being the artifact to this. You already know what is artifact, what is deliverable. I discussed about that in my earlier SDLC video. Okay, so this is the test team, the actual build file, the first working module, which is also known as the prototype. That working module will be an input to this team. Now they will handle that project of that working model. Now the testing team will have a quality assurance team. The testing consists of the QA team, which is further consists of QC team and finally the QC team will supervise the the testers. These testers, these are also a group of one or more. Basically, it is always 4, 5, 6 or more people, a group of more people. So they are basically software developers, but they, for most of the cases, they will have larger wings than the software developers because they know all the aspects of software development, and the reasons they could fail in the future, and all those constraints of software development, running that applications, and every kind of errors it might get. They are knowledgeable about all of these things. So I that's why I'm saying testers are sometimes they have larger brains than the software developers. Okay, now the testers, the QA team, their responsibility is to handle that exe jar or var, whatever the build file is, and deliver those files or pass those files to the QC team, and they will also pass those files to the testers. So what they are doing here, the job of the QA team is to assure you the quality, means as per the user requirement or client's requirement, or that PDD or project design development or technical design development, there should have some requirements predefined, which are user requirements or client requirements, or you can say business requirements. So they are already mentioned, they will defined in the PDD. So now it's the responsibility of the QA team is to read that document, to refer to this document, and being a part of all of those strategies that are need to that will be executed in the near future for testing the application, and they will actually lead the whole process, and not by their own. They will instruct the QC team and tell them they will instruct the QC team to do the testing process carefully, and they will just organize things, they will supervise things for the testing process. The ultimate doers are the testers. They are responsible for actual testing, but the QA team is working as a supervisor, and quality assurance means they are assuring the company as well as the clients that all the features or functions that we are expecting from that application will be existed, or existed in the application, or the you can say that the user or the company, the software company itself, and the end user both will be satisfied by this application, because the application works as per the user requirement or business requirement. Their job is to, let's say this application uh, got 4 features, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, F1, F2, F3 and F4. These are 4 features that we are expecting from that application, which is well defined in the PDD. These are nothing but these generally come from the end user. It's better to say the client. The client will tell you the requirements. So these are the 4 features that we are expecting from this application, and the QA team also knows these features. So they will lead the QC team, and QC team will lead the testers to make sure that all of these features are well working, are functioning in the final application. So now the tester will get the exe jar or var file. I am saying this build, my bad, build. So this is the build file. Now testers need to perform various actions based on this file. So first what they will do is, the first thing they will do, for no, not like that. Okay, I'm cleaning the board and I will write the whole thing again in a better manner. Basic steps for testing. I'm talking about the testers here. Okay, not the QA or QC, because they are not doing the actual work, they are just supervising. The main thing is carried by the testers. So I will tell you what are the steps, or what are the stages that the testers need to perform or should be doing. The first thing the tester need to perform is a smoke test. What is smoke test? Smoke test means, let's say you have a cracker for Diwali and you want to just implement that cracker, or to lead that cracker you need to, we need to just apply fire to that cracker, so that will first it will release some smoke and then it will just blast off. Similarly here, with the build version, with the actual build, the project, the tester will, a group of many people or few people, they will first do a smoke test on that, based on that build. Smoke test, they will just run that build or application. Then they will check if that application is running. At the initial stage, they will just check if it is running, not at fully functional application, but just their job, the smoke test is performed to make sure that the application is at least in testing stage, it is capable of being tested or not. They will make sure that. So at the first stage they will perform smoke test. If the decision, they will take decision again. If you draw the flow chart, they will take some decision. If it is yes, then they will process further, and if it is no, then what? Then they will report. I will again draw a better picture of that, how the reporting works and how the bug tracking works. But for now, just understand, if there is some error, they will simply return the project or reject the build. Return the build or reject the build. Both are same things. They will just return the build. They will say, no, this is not ready for the testing process. Please work on that. And this is actually done in that way. Actually a project, let's say this is the project, it got 6 modules, 1, 3 and 6. So 6 modules, let's say this is a module 1, and up to this point this will be module 6. So let's say they find some error on that part. Let's say this is a module where they are finding some issues. So they will simply report the error, the problem, to the respective developer. Means, so this is module 6, so they should also report to someone who worked on this module 6 or developed this module 6. There is no point to report to someone else, like the developer of module 1 or module 2 or module XYZ. It's not the point. It doesn't make any sense. So they will contact to the respective person or developer who have developed that module or responsible for that error. So this is the basic concept of smoke test. So if I draw the more clear picture of testing process, then this would be first the smoke test, then the nature of the test. Again, this could be of three types. The nature means that the testing team who are actually testing the application, either the nature of this test could be a black box test, this could be a white box test, or this could be a gray box test. It means, let's say I'm writing this as okay, let's say the nature is black box. What does it mean? Black box means the tester will have access to the source. Black box means the tester will, whoever testing the code, he will have full access to the okay. So I'm writing on the top right, and let's say the nature is white box. Okay, so the test nature, the application testing nature, or the testing strategy, this would be white box. So white box means the tester or tester team have full access to the source code. Okay, so white box, it means full access. When they have no access to source code, then it is called black box test. I'm talking about the nature of test, or you can say the testing strategies. What are the testing strategies available? One is white box, second is black box, and third one is gray. I also had to write the access level, that is middle. You can say middle. This is gray box. Gray box means the tester or testing team, they would have a medium level of access. For few modules they would have full access, and for the rest of the modules they would have no access to the source codes. So this is all about the testing nature. Now coming to the method. So what are the methods available for testing? One is manual, and the second one is, for manual testing, they would test the application, the whole application, and all the containing modules, like a end user, like an someone who is using the system, a novice person or the end user. So now the tester will become an end user. So he's actually, the tester is actually behaving like an end user, and he will perform the manual test. Why we are calling this manual? Because when we are actually an end user, we don't know about the system, we are just concerned about the functionalities, about the features, what we are actually trying to achieve, the main operations that we are at, the goals, what we are looking for to achieve. So that's why we are calling this as manual test, because now the tester has become an end user. He will, like say we have a cab booking application, and I'm the tester, okay, but now I will behave like an end user. So I will see, there is a logo, app logo, there is a search option, Here will be some maps for cab booking. I will see my current location here, and there will be a text box. It will ask me for the location I want to go, the destination, and few more options here, few packages, what are the cabs, their packages, what are available. So this is a basic idea of a cab booking application. So this was developed, this application is being developed by my IT firm, my company, and I'm the tester here. So I'm looking up this thing, I'm looking for the bugs, and I'm checking for the whole functionalities, but not being a tester. I'm just being an end user, like a customer, like a general public. This is called manual test. But how I perform the manual test? I will use this as I don't know about the internal workings. No matter if I can, it doesn't matter that I can see the source code, I can modify them. It's not my job to modify the source code. Even though I'm seeing the source code, I will behave like an end user. I will simply check all these text box, all these options. I will check the location system if it is working as per the as expected. If it is the GPS connection, if the GPS is working correctly. Like say I am in Kolkata, but it's showing I am in Nagpur, then it's a wrong thing. It's a error. It's a bug. So right now, being an user, I will say this is a bug, not being a tester, because I'm not doing anything on the source code, I'm not reading the source code, I'm not doing any other thing. I'm just using this thing like I'm an user, an end user. So this is the manual testing, and this manual testing would be performed for all other modules and the whole system. But mainly for the most of the time, we will check for in case of manual testing, we would check the application like a whole thing. We would say we are not checking for modules. We are just assuming that this is module. There are many modules, okay, in an application. These are all modules, but we are not concerned about the module when we are talking about manual testing. We just want to check if the whole thing is working together. This is also called as integration testing, because all these modules are working together, all are integrated. These are all working together. Module 1, module 2, whatever the amount is of modules, we don't care about that. We just try to find out if all the modules are interconnected with each other. Okay, as you can see here, our duty is to find, when performing the manual test, being a tester, when we are actually performing the manual test, we would see if all the modules are working together, which is also known as integration test or integrity test. These all modules are communicating with each other, so there is some integrity. So if all of the modules can perform the desired operation successfully, if all of them are working nicely, so we can definitely say that the integrity check has been passed. There is no error, there is no issue. So this is all about the manual testing. But sometimes when actually there is no proper rule for manual testing, you can also perform some manual testing, particularly on this module. You can perform manual test on this module, but this would not make much sense, because being in the manual testing phase, our main motive is to check if the whole thing is working correctly together. Mean we are actually focused on the integrity test. But you may ask why we are not focused on the unit test or per module test, because that already has been performed by the respective developer. As I said earlier, if this is an application, there are 4 modules. Let's say this is module 3, and let's say Devi and Jack, they both worked on this module. So it is very much obvious that these two guys would perform unit test on it. Why they would perform? Because they are actually building their module, and while building their module, they would also need to run that module. And when they are running that module, they are not running others' module, they are running their own module. It means they are actually testing their own module, which is nothing but the unit testing. They are unit testing on their module. So when the unit testing is completed successfully, they will hand over their module to the testing team. So we do not need to perform unit testing on modules separately. We would just focus on the manual test, and if manual test is passed successfully, then we would move on to the automatic test. What is automatic test? In this automatic test, our main motive is to during automatic test, we would do the same thing as we did in the manual test, but in automatic manner. Means when performing manual test, I was being an end user, but this time I will not be an end user. I will simply put that application. This was my cab application. Okay, I would simply put this application under few strategies, few checking test strategies. You may ask how those strategies come. So this is the testing phase. Smoke test already done. Then test plan. 3. Test design. 4. Test execute. 5th, result analysis. 6th, 6th is bug tracking, and finally bug reporting. So smoke test already passed. Then test plan and test design. These two phases, they decide what should be our strategies for checking. This goes for these two, manual test and automatic test. What I will be testing on the application, being an end user, those strategies also come from these two stages, test plan and test design. These two stages, they would prepare some strategies, some or scenarios. These are the test scenarios against which we have to perform the manual test and automatic test. Let's say the strategy is it is very general that there would be more than hundreds of strategies mentioned in a, let's say this is a PDF document. All of these strategies are well defined in this document, and the tester who will be performing the manual test and automatic test, he needs to consider this document, and he will perform the manual test. If there are hundreds of strategies out there, then he will test this application against all those hundreds of scenarios or strategies. Okay, if they are passed for okay, now the question is how the automatic test occurs. Automatic test, we are not doing the thing, we are not testing the application being an end user. Rather than doing that, we are using some testing system. Test sys is also known as automation, test automation or automated test. Okay. This is a third-party application developed by some other people, other group of people. Basically a server. This is a server. Let's say we are using some ABC language. This is a, let's say this is a like VB script or JavaScript. When you write a JavaScript or VB script, you just write a script. You just, let's say these are 10 lines of JS or VB. You save the script or document as with extension of .js or .vb. So when you double click on that file, the file will be processed by the script server, or simply say the application server, which is nothing but the JS runtime. You have a JS runtime on your machine, not in the always in the, you have in the browser, but you also have the JS engine in your desktop environment. There is VB environment also, and JS. Whenever you double click a JS file on the desktop, I'm not talking about browsers. Not now your system, your operating system is serving that JS file. When you run JavaScript on the browser, that's your JavaScript, that's your the browser being that client. But your desktop, but you can run the JS or VB in your desktop environment also. So that file will be served or processed by the JS runtime, or you can say JS interpreter or VB interpreter. Okay, interpreter. So like that, as I was talking about ABC language, I will write all those testing strategies in this script, and finally there would be this test server or automation test server, which will process this ABC file against this application. Means this script will be processed by this server, and this server, this is just instructions for this server. This is the instruction part, the statements. Those all hundreds of scenarios or test cases, strategies will go inside this test system, and its responsibility is to perform all those hundreds of manual testing, all those testing strategies on this application. And I have nothing to do. I would just feed this script to this system, that this automated test system or test automation system will do the rest of the work. I have nothing to worry. So this is all about automated test. Okay, after that, this stage is this test execution is this thing, be it manual or automatic. Then I would definitely get some result or mark sheet. As you get mark sheet, you always analyze that. You will analyze, there would be some alert, there would be some alert or warning, there would be some serious errors which needs to be rectified. So when you get whatever this is alert or error, your job is as a tester, your job is to report this to your seniors, the QC team, and the QC team will further report to its parent department, which is quality assurance department, and they will further contact to the respective module developer or fragment developer, whoever is responsible for that error. Okay, if there is no error, then the result analysis and bug tracking, these both happen together, because the result analysis, when we have the result, we also need to find out some detailed reasons. What are the reasons for that error? This could be an alert X, or error E, but this is not understandable. What is the actual reason behind this alert or this error? That's why we also need to perform bug tracking, and this is basically done by a special application which is called a bug tracker, that would perform the bug tracking on this application. And finally, we would, if there are errors, then we would make a document and we would contact and refer to our parent team. If we are working as a tester, we would call to quality control, and they would further contact to the quality assurance team. And finally, the bug reporting. What is bug reporting? Bug reporting means that what I'm speaking about. Tester, it's his responsibility to report the bug to the QC, and further it is the responsibility of QC to contact to QA team, and the QA team will further contact to the respective developer. So this was all about testing. After testing, what happens? After testing, if there are errors, they will contact to their parent team, and if there are no errors, which is more important thing to know right now, if there are no errors or warnings or alerts, means the project is totally clean and is working as per the expectation of the client, the company itself. Means what? Means the project is working as per the PDD or technical design document or project design document. Means the application is 100% reliable to put a stamp on it. Okay, one more thing I need to tell you that I recently remembered. That is, while doing all this test, we need to keep two things in our mind. That is, one is functional test. What is functional test and what is non-functional test? While doing functional test, we need to keep all those features, all those functions in our mind, that what are well defined in that project document or technical design document. We need to keep those things in our mind. Let's say this application got feature 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 features. While doing functional test, no matter manual or automatic, black box or white box, whatever it is, we just need to keep these features in our mind, that all these features are functional. That's why it's saying functional. All these features are functional in the application. Okay, so this is passed. If failed, they will surely contact. If passed, they would perform non-functional. Non-functional tests are, there are several types of non-functional tests. How? Let's say you have that application, that same old application. All the functions are functional. Means okay. Now we need to test that application under many circumstances. Like say, if we develop this duster, it is actually okay. But you can see that I'm cleaning the board using this hanky. Why? I could have used this also, but I'm using this. That's the same difference. Actually, this got the functionalities. It is actually functional. It got everything that a duster needs, but all are functional. But it failed in non-functional test. How? The sponge it got here, it is not capable of cleaning the board. It cannot erase the board. That's why I'm not using this. So actually, while performing the non-functional test on this thing, it failed, and I'm using this. So these are basic difference. But in this case, in this context, what are those test cases for non-functional test? Like say load or stress test. Second one is load test. This could be done by overloading the application. If it is a web application, then we can overload the application by sending too many requests per second. If it is a desktop application or any targeted application, there should be other methods also. Let's say we have this website or application, this server basically, and its hardware is XYZ. Its capacity, it's better to say the capacity of the server hardware is XYZ, and our application is running on it. Let's say our app. It is basically functional. All the functions are working correctly, but we need to test the non-functional also. For that, we need to put some stress on it, extra stress, which is not desired. Let's say we are planning for 100 users per second to use this application, but there could be cases like let's say for some for e-commerce websites and for the similar kinds of websites, there could be some urgent demand, some accidental demand, or things like that. In that case, the 100 users per second, this value could exceed by 1,000, even 10,000. So this is creating the extra load on this server as well as on the application. So this is also a test case. We need to make sure that on several cases or circumstances, the application is working correctly or not. This is also come under the non-functional test. There are a lot of other cases also, but this is the most important thing that came onto my head that I am sharing with you. This is overloading the application or load or stress test. There should be some network speed test. Let's say network speed test. What is this? This is again that XYZ hardware capacity, and application is running on this hardware, and let's say we are expecting 100 users per second using this application, but provided that the network speed should not be less than kbps. Keep it kbps, 60 kbps. So we are expecting that 100 users will be using this application per second, provided that the speed 60 kbps, not less than 60 kbps. If the speed is less than 60 kbps, then this system would hang, or there would be some laggy experiences, some usual hang, usual freezes. So this is also a test case. We need to make this system in such way that no matter what is the speed is, the user is capable of running this application. If not properly, at least the user is notified that his internet speed is not that much higher or experiencing some low speed internet. That's why the user has to wait for few seconds. So this is a kind of notification the application could generate. So if the functional non-functional test is not being into our consideration, then we are losing all these things. Only being functional is not that much operational. Functional is required and non-functional is also required. The example I given to you recently, this is satisfying all the functional requirements. It got everything, but this is not working under the circumstances. Given that this material is not good, this material is not that much effective. So this is a sponge, but that's why this is passing the functional test, but this is not that much effective. But I can use this. If I apply some water, then I can use it. That's also that non-functional or under special circumstances. If I apply water, then I can use this. So this should not be the case. So we should always make this thing flexible. So no matter whatever the internet speed is, whatever the hardware and whatever the infrastructure is, every user can use the system properly. This should be our main motive. This was all about testing and all main topics are covered. Thank you for watching. If you have pure knowledge of SDLC, then this would be even better. If you don't have pure knowledge to SDLC, if you don't know what is actually SDLC and what are the stages involved, I showed you actually. Still, if you want to get full clarity on the SDLC, you could refer to my old videos that I posted earlier on SDLC. SDLC is nothing but an integral part of SDLC, and SDLC and this STLC, one is system development and another is system testing. Both comes under IEEE standards. So these are the things you should be familiar with. So go and work your way. Thank you.